Hello, and welcome to A Clash of Queens, where we answer your best and worst A Song of Ice and Fire questions. I want to thank you all who have subscribed to our channel recently. As you may remember, last time we promised you a live Q&A if we reach 500 subscribers. Well, not only have we reached it, but we're getting even close to 600. So next weekend, we have planned not just one, but two Q&As. We had to split the group in two to make it easier. The information will be coming soon, but that will be next Saturday to Meet the Watch Q&As. And the link, as always, are in the description box. Also, our monthly reread will take place on Saturday, July 13th, and we will be discussing the A Dance with Dragon prologue, Varamir Sixskin, with two guests, James of Thrones and Ideas of Ice and Fire. And the next day, so on July 21st, we will be starting a three-part series of Duncan Egg rereads. We also have many new and exciting things to come, so stay tuned for even more videos from us. Finally, the next Clash of Queens will take place, I think we just said August 6th. Well, dates still to be decided. And the questions for next episode will be centered around the theme of dragons. Yes, I hope you're excited about that. One last quick word. As some of you may know, the community has been plagued by, a very insisting troll who appears in live chat and starts insulting people. Thus, we'll be monitoring the live chat more closely than we usually do. We really don't want to censor anyone, but please be mindful of the way you phrase your comments, especially if you're new here and we don't really know you yet. But enough rambling. As we've said, the theme of today's Clash of Queens is versus. So let's start with the first question by Joshua Valach. Tinker, do you want to start on that one?
Okay, I'll start with the first question. And the first question is by Joshua Valach. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And is Areo Hotah versus Darkstar. Who would win? And in this one, I'm gonna go with Areo Hotah. Yes, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Tinker Joshua, but it's a dancer. It's underneath, and I hope that you've seen enough of our videos that you already know who we are. This one, the thing about these two is that we actually haven't seen them very much. We've heard a few things from Darkstar, but we only saw him in one chapter, really. With Areo Hotah, we've seen more of him, and we've seen a lot of their POV, but we also haven't heard that much about their fighting and their prowess. For other characters, even if they're dead, we've heard a lot of their battles, their heroics, many things. But we actually haven't heard that much. We do know that Darkstar is a very good fighter. Ariane says that. And we know that Areo Hotah has been serving House Martell, for a long time. Before, he used to serve Milario, the wife, but that's pretty much all we know. There is a fight when Ariane tries to crown Marcella, in which Areo Hotah kills Aria's Oakheart, and Darkstar tries to kill Marcella, but fails. And that's really the only conflict we've seen between them. But I chose Areo Hotah first because he seems like a very, he's someone who's obviously been training for a very, very long time. He was sold to the bearded priest when he was a very young age, and at the age of 16, he was made, he completed his training. So obviously, for since his childhood, he was 16, it was all about fighting. It's all that he knows. He's not lord of anything else. He doesn't have a castle. He doesn't have any other thing to worry about except to train, to protect, to fight. It's all that he does in his life. It's training, it's duty, it's protection. It's all that, there's a quote here. It says, Areo's thoughts: serve, obey, protect. Simple boast for a simple man. And this is who he is. Darkstar is not. We don't even know that much about him and about, what he really wants. But we know that he's someone who's obviously cruel. Even Arianne says that, and has obviously his own issues. He tries to kill Marcella against what Arianne tells him. But he doesn't kill her. She's just a little girl, and yes, there was chaos everywhere, but he didn't even manage to kill her, just to take one of her ears off. And well, Areo hotah, the moment that he appears, like arrows, and then crushes. He goes directly for what he wants, and he accomplishes what he was supposed to accomplish. And Darkstar doesn't even manage to kill an 11-year-old Marcella. And since we don't have that much information about him, from the information that we do have, is that Areo hotah clearly knows what he's doing, while Darkstar might be cruel and knows how to fight, but obviously does not manage to, get his mission done, which is to kill Marcella to start the war. So I'm going with Areo hotah. And also, I kind of like the image that we have of him, of like, big, huge, with that huge axe thingy that he has. Nah. I'm going with Areo hotah on this. So, ladies, you tell me what you think.
I was pretty sure you were gonna go with Areo hotah. I was pretty sure you were gonna go with a good guy. But yeah, I agree that we don't know much about what Darkstar has done. Darkstar is of the night. He's a man of mystery. I mean, well, we have a couple of quotes. Like, people tend to think that he's dangerous, but we don't really know why. Why they think he's dangerous? He certainly makes himself out to be a very dangerous man. He says in the Queen's Maker, "I was wind on venom dealt. Any viper takes a bite of me will rue it." And then we have that famous quote from Doran in The Princess in the Tower: "You were a fool to make him part of this. Darkstar is the most dangerous man in Dorne." Yeah, but we don't really know. Like, I agree with you. Like, he tried to kill the little girl and he botched that. But you know me, you know that I'm gonna go with Darkstar. Okay, and here's my reason. No, okay. First. Let me say that I don't really like usually like versus questions, even though we're doing them today. Like, I'm not really into big fights. I mean, I like them, but that's not my favorite part. But I really like this question because it's something that we might actually get to see in the next book, so it makes it more fun to speculate. We already know that Obara was dispatched along with Balance One to find Darkstar, who has escaped to High Hermitage. And then in Winds of Winter, we learned that Areo hotah will be accompanying them. There's a quote from Arian, sorry. "If the gods were good, by now Obara Sand has treated him in his mountain fortress fastness and put an end to him." She said as much to Damon Sand that first night as they made camp. "Be careful what you pray for, Princess," he replied. Darkstar could put an end to Lady Obara just as easily. She has Areo hotah with her. Prince Doran's captain of guards had dispatched Sir Aris Oakheart with a single blow. Though the King's Guard were supposed to be the finest knights in all of the realm, no man can stand against hotah. So everything looks good for hotah, but I really don't think that. So I'm not speculating into like trial by combat. In trial by combat, one versus one into an arena. Yes, I will have to agree with Tinker that we don't really know enough about Darkstar. That Areo hotah would probably win, but in the next book, it's a very different scenario, and I think that Darkstar will defeat Areo hotah, but by guile. What do I think? I think that the reason why Darkstar tried to kill Marcella was to start a war. I'm thinking, oh, who's going after him? Well, someone else who really, until very recently, really wanted to start a war, go to whole town, sack the city, take the gold, and just mess things up. Obara Sand. Our hermitage isn't that far away from that place, so actually I'm thinking that it's much more likely that um, Hotah will be watching the Kingsguard, he will be watching Darkstar, but he won't be watching Obara, and that Darkstar somehow managed to get her to turn cloak. You know, like, oh, like we want the same thing. Like Doran doesn't know what you want. We want the same thing. Let's go and sack Dorn. Oh, but first we must get rid of those guys that are gonna stop us. And there's like sort of a foreshadowing line in the Captain of the Guard, the first chapter, where he really thinks like, oh, I can kill Barra like that. I'm sorry. No, I need to find my quote that I've lost. Yeah, so quick and strong as she was, the woman was no match for him, he knew, but she did not, and he had no wish to see her blood upon the pale pink marble. So that's what I'm thinking, is that somehow, through guile, Darkstar will convince Obara to betray her camp and go with him to like do whatever mischief and start a war, you know. And that probably Obara will, surprise Hotah and kill him. If you want to know more about it, written in a much, much better way, with much better quote and from a much cleverest person, I link down poor Quentin's blog in the description box, and so you can go and read what he had to say about that. T-Baby.
Oh, okay. So if I'm understanding correctly, we have Sweets who says that Darkstar would win, right? And then we have Tinker who says is Hotah, right? So it's up to me. Interesting. So let's. I think that the match is more even than we think. When you think of Hotah, he's always alert. He's always trying to think of how he's going to beat the person. We've seen him in combat, so we know that he's quick on his feet as well, but he's really strong. You're not going to just catch him off guard because he's constantly aware and he's sizing up his opponent. So when Oakhart, when he died, they brought in a new guard. And he's sizing this man up, all right, saying he's not going to charge at me. He's thinking strategically. So when it comes to that, it's not an easy fight. So now we have to think of Darkstar. But these been compared, they have like the little bit that we do know of Darkstar is kind of the same comparison as Hotah. So in one chapter, and I think it's The Watcher, they describe Hotah as kind of like halfway in the shadows but halfway out there. So he's kind of always back looking, but he's involved in some way. And Darkstar is viewed the same way, where he's kind of halfway in the moonlight, but then he's halfway out here. So he's also constantly aware of his surroundings. Then you also have to think that no one can really recall so much that happened in that moment when Darkstar did cut Marcella, that we can assume that he's at least quick on his feet and he's thinking. But also we have to admit that if he's willing to slash a little girl, then we know he fights dirty. So that, I think, puts a little edge towards it, because I don't know if Hotah would fight dirty. So you kind of have these two people also, and that are, I guess you could say that they're similar, is that they've both been told, or it's been said in the chapters, that they could be Obara. So we're at least knowing that they're at least evenly matched at that. But when it comes down to everything as a whole package, I'm going to have to go with Hotah, because he's bigger, he is fast, he's strategic. He's not like some klutz where he's just going to stand still. He's already thinking about how to counteract with what you're going to do. But I think it's going to come down to, is he going to have to do something where he fights is not as honorable as he might want it to be? Because I think with Darkstar, the edge is that he will fight dirty. He's shown us that he would. So when it comes down to it, I'm going to have to go with what my eyes see, and it's going to have to be Hotah, because he's always alert and ready. So
No, I agree. I mean, Ota, a lot of the things said about him remind me of Barristan. I mean, he's not, like that old, he's not that young anymore. It's that old seasoned Kingsguard. I mean, he's the captain of the guard, and that's really what he is. But in the words you quoted, Tinker, obey, serve, and sorry, you see, I can't remember anything if I'm not staring at my notes. I'm terrible.
Obey.
Obey, serve, protect.
Simple boast for a simple man.
Exactly. Well, that's a little bit also like Barristan's story in A Dance with Dragons, when all of a sudden he's the hand of the queen and he has to, like think politically. So I agree with you. Yes, one-on-one fight, one-on-one fight, no trickery. Yes, I do believe that that would win. But, I'm thinking, probably won't go down that way. Also, the reason why I'm thinking that is, I mean, it's not like, Dark Star is like he's a flamboyant villain. It's not really someone. I mean, I don't think he's really going to amount to much, but I'm thinking they created that character, you know, and again, I mean, it's just based on the fact that that fight will probably happen in the next book, and I'm thinking, okay, they built up that character. If they just kill him off screen, I don't know, it will be a little unsatisfying for me. So
I don't believe that Obara would side with him. She already knows that war is gonna come. She already knows the whole plan with Daenerys and then Aegon. She knows all of that. And Nymeria is going to King's Landing. I don't think she would ever agree to anything that would put, her sisters in danger without a greater plan or without having something more, you know. Also, she's a Sand Snakes, and I love the Sand Snakes, and I don't want to think that of them. So, until I'm proven incorrect.
also, one thing I forgot to mention about hotah is that he also can take a lot of pain as well, because they did talk about his past and how he was branded and that it really hurt, but he didn't flinch. So we know he can take pain. So that's also another plus for him. But I think if it does come to a battle between the two, it's whoever is going to fight the smartest and who's willing to fight the dirtiest to win that fight.
Well, I don't think there's anything that has been shown that he's not capable of fighting dirty. Like, to serve his lord, he will do anything. He serve, obey, protect, whatever it really takes. And Ariane's not there. His lord is not there. So really, he's got no one that he really has to protect that he will put before anything else. So I don't think he's above, playing dirty. Ser Arthur, he didn't have to kill him. They were completely outnumbered. He had absolutely no problem chopping him up. So I think that he'd be willing to go the extra mile to take him down. I don't think he'd have a problem with that. I just don't think he's not cruel or evil, but I don't think he's above playing dirty. He was taught to serve and to protect at whatever cost. So
yeah, I don't think he's above it, but I think when it comes down to those two fighting, it's going to come down to who's going to fight the dirtiest. So I do think that when it comes down, especially when it's fighting, that he's going to do whatever it takes to win that battle just because he's calculating. He's sizing someone up, so he's trying to think of the best way to knock them down. I'm just saying that it's going to probably be towards who's willing to do like something more cutthroat than the other. But not saying that neither one of them wouldn't be able to do that. It's just who's going to, not who's willing, but who's going to do it, if it gets down to those two.
In one thing, I do 100% agree with Sweet. If we don't actually see that battle, if they just completely kind of forget it or just kind of mention it, I'll be very disappointed. I really hope that battle, because it kind of has built up. We've had a couple of POVs from Areo Hotah. He's one of the few people in Dorne that we've actually gotten a POV from. So that whole thing, it has to be more than just mentioned, in a letter or something of that sort. We have to see something of it.
I agree. Do we have anything to add on that one? Did I saw that you asked, or you asked people who they would vote for? So did you look at the results?
Yeah, most of them are siding with us, sweets. I'm sorry.
No,
Y'all
that's
alone,
okay.
but it's so for this battle, hotah, he won this battle, and I'm excited to see what you guys think of the next battle.
Okay. Well, yeah, the next battle was it's a question by LT. He asked, who would win in single combat, Sir Arthur Dayne or Aemon the Dragon Knight? And yeah, I know that he really, really loves Aemon the Dragon Knight, and it's cool that it's true. Remember last Clash of Queens, I chose Aemon as my captain. No, yeah, captain of the Queen's Guard because he's like the to me is the most noble, image of a warrior from the fairy tales. Although I mean Arthur Dayne is very noble, very skilled in combat. I don't have any quotes on that, you can be assured, but we have that the tale of Jamie remembering when he was, sorry. See what happens when I have no quotes? Uh, when he was accompanying Arthur Dayne when they were fighting the Kingswood Brotherhood, and how he got the small folk on his side, and then how he slew the head of the Kingswood Brotherhood in single combat. So he's also like a very, very beautiful figure of a chivalrous knight. But still, I mean, I would say, I should always go third because I'm like, yeah, it depends. I'm not sure. I don't know. But it would, to me, I can't really. I mean, yes, Eamon has fought more battle than Arthur. Arthur, I don't know if we can take that against him, but was pretty much killed by a wounded Ned and a Kraken man. So, like, not the most heroic of death. But again, we don't know the circumstances. I will not hold that against him. I would say it really, really depends on whether or not he has Dawn. We don't know a lot about Dawn, but that Chekhov's gun. That sword has to be, like special and magical for a reason. It must be able to do really, really, really amazing things with it. So I would say that my pick would be Arthur Dayne if he has Dawn.
It's interesting you said that because that's the whole thing. That was my question I wanted to ask you guys is I want it to be a fair fight. So I think we have to take Dawn out of the equation to make it fair. So
No, I think that he has to have Dawn. Each person goes with what they have.
I'm thinking that you take away these swords, who's the best fighter, who's the best warrior? You have these swords, and then it's kind of giving it an edge. It's Dawn, so I don't think that's a fair fight. So I'm saying if you took
Never
away,
fair. If
yeah,
it
but
was
I'm saying
combat, you would take Dawn.
versus without the knives, like make it 100. Otherwise, it's like a no contest. So could he win if he didn't have Dawn? Would he be able to beat Aemon?
But Aemon has Dark Sister, which is
Take that
a
away. I'm saying to make it even because it's not. It's even if it's Dark Sister, it's Dawn. It's the sword of the morning. It's a huge advantage. I think even Martin said that if he had Dawn at that moment, he would still be breathing. So it's like it's a slight advantage. So I mean, I'm just curious. You can answer the question how you want, but I'm curious if they don't have their, magical swords and stuff, who's winning this fight?
Hey, I like what you're saying, and I have a quote for that. That's from, Magical Sword, the power of Magical Sword. And I thought it was funny because I'm not even sure. Like in single combat, you know what? I would have to side. It really depends on the context. Like if Arthur is protecting someone or anything. But if we're talking again like pure single combat, I said in pure single combat, yes, I think Arrow that would would kill Darkstar. Again, like pure fair simple combat, I think Aemon, I mean, I'm not sure, but we have more information of all of these great deeds. And although he had a Valyrian steel sword, it's not a magical sword. But you know what? I think that in a fair fight, Dane would not even use Dawn. And here's my quote. It's from a Brienne chapter one we did in a reread. Was that 2 months ago or last month? I don't know. I was not in this one. And it's Brienne discussing a local hero from Tarth. And the hero is called Sir Galladon of Morn, the perfect knight. And that's what she says. Sir Galladon was a champion of such valor that the maiden herself lost her heart to him. She gave him an enchanted sword as a token of her love. The Just Maid, it was called. No common sword could check her, nor any shield withstand her kiss. Oh my God, I'm bad today. Sir Galladon bore the Just Maid proudly, but only thrice did he I cannot pronounce that word. Oh my God. Achieve her. He would not use the maid against a mortal man, for she was so potent as to make any fight unfair. And then Crabbe thought that was hilarious. The perfect knight, the perfect fool, he sounds like. What's the point of having a magic sword if you don't bloody well use it? Honor, she said. The point is honor. So, sorry for the long quote again. I know that's what you're watching, but yeah, I'm saying I agree and don't agree with T, but I am wondering, like, Tinker, what do you think? Would Arthur in a single combat use Dawn against Aemon the Dragon Knight?
I don't know if he would use it or not, but I think that he should. Everyone is born with some advantages. Some are taller, some are stronger, so whatever. He inherited Dawn. That is his sword. To not use a sword just because it's stronger than an ordinary sword, I think that would be ridiculous. That is his sword, and I think he should use it. It's the same as some people using a Valyrian sword. Valyrian swords are also so much better, so much more powerful. You don't see them not using that sword. It just I don't. I think each person goes to battle with what they have. If one is better, than it has a greater advantage, well then you should use it. I think it's kind of insulting not to. Like, oh, sorry, you're never gonna win me with this super flashy sword, so I'm not gonna use it. No. We don't even know that much about Dom. We don't know his superpowers. We don't know if he's invincible with that sword. It might be that it's just a much better sword. Do we know that he's unstoppable without that sword? We don't know that. So I would add the swords to the fight.
Yeah, I'm not debating. I'm saying that if they don't have these swords and they're fighting, who's going to win? I'm saying that I'm taking out one element so that we look at these men as fighters and not the swords. That's all. I mean, it could go any way with them having it or not. I'm saying that breaking it down without including these swords, who's going to win the fight? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying why someone would or wouldn't. I'm just saying if you take away this, the question becomes a little bit more complex.
Okay, let's do it then that way without the swords.
No, but what I'm saying is that's like my additional question, because the original question wasn't who would win without these swords. That was just my thinking on top of that. So you can have this battle with the swords. I'm saying, would it change if these swords were out of the? Would your opinion change if they didn't have these swords?
Yes.
What side are you on then, T?
So for me, I'm going to still. Okay, this is where I'm going to say I'm on defense about, and it's not about the swords, but it's more about. Okay, so Rhaegar apparently beat Ser Arthur in like 2 tournaments, which I thought was weird. And they embellished to the fact that said that he was doing it like 12 times, which seems to imply that he was really trying to defeat him, and he lost twice. That makes me question his fighting skills as far as him when he got older. But then you have to also think, the Dragon Knight, it wasn't like he didn't get untouched because he got hit with a poison arrow and he was out for 6 months. He got captured by Dorne, and it was Baelor, his brother, who had to come to rescue him or give him the key. But then again, he shows his strength because he carried, I think they said that he carried his brother like for miles until they were out, so it shows his strength. That's why I started thinking, well, if we just take out the swords, then it's like, well, okay, it's more of a whose fighting techniques are better. So I'm slightly edging Ser Arthur Dayne based off of the actions we've seen, based off of Jaime, and then also the Tower of Joy. Even though he didn't win, it was something that blocked that, but we've seen more evidence of his fighting style, where Aemon the Dragon Knight, we know that he can fight, but he's also been captured a lot. So I don't know if he's like the smartest one. It's like he could be possibly like a good fighter, but I think you also have to have wits to you and be able to think logically and counter interact. So when it comes down to that, I think that Ser Arthur Dayne has the slight edge when it comes to fighting techniques.
My thing is that, well, for one, Ser Arthur Dayne only, the big thing that he did is fighting the Kingswood Brotherhood, and that was just like a small brotherhood, out in the forest. He's never actually been in like a full-out war. He started that out in the rebellion in the Tower of Joy. And the times that Aemon got injured were both during like full-out wars, when there were like assassination attempts. Like, we're talking about big things here. It's very difficult not to get injured in war. And we've already heard that Dorne is like impossible to conquer. And there were in things in Dorne, and to be fair, it's very like arrows is not like one-on-one fighting. It's very difficult. If you like, arrows are tricky. That's why that's why a lot of people fall to arrows, because they're not so easy to protect from. And he was doing it. He protected several kings, and he fought for many years. It's easier to get captured and injured, etc., if you've been for many years and in many wars. Well, Arthur Dayne had one fight with the Kingswood Brotherhood, and then sat out a rebellion in a tower. Like, he didn't have that much time to really get himself into troubled situations, while Aemon was always there with the kings in the middle of all of it. Being a target, protecting the people that were always targeted. So he survived until until his years, served several kings, got through so many things. So clearly he's someone that, is a survivor, is strong, no matter poisoned arrows. When he dragged the king, he also had to go through the snakes and then kept walking. He even protected the last king. He died to save him while the king clearly hated him and said horrible, vicious things about him. So we're talking about someone that is completely loyal. It's constantly there, no matter wars, no matter assassination attempts, in cages with vipers, with poisoned arrows, and he still survived until much later on, always serving, always in the Kingsguard. And I think that's not something that you can deny. Well, Arthur Dayne, how old was he when he died? In his maybe early 20s, mid-20s? And died in a tower after he sat away a war. So I think that, well, I love Ser Arthur Dayne. I really like Ser Arthur Dayne, and I think that it would be a very, very close fight. In the end, I would have to go to Aemon simply because of his experience and surviving until the very end through all of these situations. Because in the end, the one who survives, no matter how many times he's been captured, poisoned, injured, etc., in the end ends up winning, because the one who dies is the one who loses. You can always come back and then win later on. And as long as you're alive, you win. And he lived a lot longer through a hell of a lot worse things than Ser Arthur Dayne. So I think I would give it to I think that was the hardest question. For the others it was very clear, but this one I had to it took me a long time to finally decide, because I really like Arthur Dayne, and I'm like, yes, but Aemon the Dragon Knight is kind of like, so I'll go with Aemon Dragon Knight, just simply because he survived so many things. I'm like, dude, in this world, to survive so many things until that age, you have to give someone props for that.
Yeah, this one was I think this was a tougher question, just because even in the books, when you even see like Bran and Jon and all these little kids talking about the knights they want to be, they're always on the list. They're never off the list. So they were already up there. They were legendary in their time. That's why I was like, well, let's take away something, because it could go either way. As we've seen in a lot of these fights, it can go either way, because you could slip on a rock and that's it. Yeah. But I think between those two, it would really go from the last blow. Just because, like you said, one where we've seen all of these legendary fights that he's been in, and we see that he can take pain and all that, you have to counter that in. However, you also have to think of the other guy who's also known for swordplay, and he's the one that knighted Jaime and all this. So it's like you got these two like really good reputations that it really could go either way. Just depends on the day.
Yeah, I think we all agree that it's almost a tie. I think I'm siding a little bit more, as Tinker said, on the side of Aemon, exactly for the wonderful reason she stated. And also, I think Dawn would be the game changer, but I don't think Arthur would use Dawn unless he was fighting to protect someone and had to win at all costs. Really. I mean, unless if it was really important. But otherwise, I think is honorable. Thus, he would not use Dawn in single combat, and thus that would even the playing field. And I would say, yeah, maybe Aemon would have a little bit more chance. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Those questions are so tough because those guys did not live at the same time, and like we can't really like. It's really tough to speculate on the outcome of a fight that is totally taken with no circumstances surrounding it. We don't know if it's in battle, if it's in single combat. We don't know any of those things,
and we always get it through the POV of other people. It's secondhand information, and secondhand information is not always 100% true, or it's seen through the perspective of other people.
You are true on that. Yeah, like it's a good thing. I mean, to be honest, they probably never would have fought each other, but it is like an interesting question, because you have to think of all the things they've done and try to counteract it with all the things this person's done. So that one would be hard. They probably would end up killing each other. That's
yeah,
how
I
it.
totally see that happening. Totally.
Your favorite knights end up just massacring each other.
Yeah, like the two brothers in the Dance of the Dragon falling like together into each other's arms.
I have to mention this. There's a question that I really like from Iron Throne. Westeros After Dark question: who wins a naked mud wrestling contest? I think that would be a much more fun contest to see who wins.
Oh yes. Do we have any contestant from Iron Throne or anyone? You know what? That's a theme. I mean, we have the theme for next month, but Westeros After Dark, I think that sounds like a good theme for one episode. Something a little bit less serious. So, mud wrestling contest. I'm throwing Strong Bear Was.
You know what? That's a good one. Who would be funny to see wrestling naked? Well, not. Why did I say naked? I don't
Well,
know why I thought that.
it's naked.
It's
Naked
naked.
wrestling contest.
For some reason, I was picturing him naked. Excuse me. What about Ned? I think Ned, because he's so serious, or Stannis. I would love to see Stannis like wrestle
Oh my god.
because he would still probably have a grim face, and it would like you look ridiculous. Like
He would grind his teeth like that and like mad wrestle naked, grinding his teeth and
Oh, that would be so funny.
or Tywin.
Oh my god. Tywin.
so Tywin versus Stannis in mud. Who wins?
Oh my god, that's a good one.
Tywin, he's sneakier.
Yeah, I don't know, but Tywin never fights. Like Tyrion makes a point of it. Like he's a really good battle commander, but like the Battle of the Green Fork, I hope. Yeah, he's describing how he's observing the whole battle from on top of his horse, on top of the hill, like not a single hair. He doesn't have hair anymore, but
Also older.
none of his whiskers are unmarked. So like Tywin, correct me if I'm wrong, but he probably must have thought what did he fight in? The Nine Penny Kings? But even there we don't really have any account of anything of any like special combat. So yeah, he's a great like if he was to command the guy fighting naked in the mud. But so I would say Stannis. You were talking about survivors, Tinker. Like Stannis survived, eating down to rats and down to shoes during this. Yeah, so he would. Yeah, I think he would. Yeah, grind his teeth and keep on going.
Sorry. I'm gonna have to say Stannis. I don't see Tywin winning that, and Tywin will probably still show up late to the fight when he almost thinks it's done, and then swoops in and wrestles him to the ground. So, based off of history, I'm gonna go with Stannis winning that one.
Yeah. Stannis, yeah. And also Tywin is older. Not as fit as Stannis.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading what they're talking about in it's hilarious. Like Mord versus Lisa Harry naked.
Night's King versus Robert Strong.
Um,
I'm going with Night King.
well,
Well,
I-
Robert Strong is kind of half dead, so the Night's King could probably, take control over him.
Yep, that's exactly what I thought he would do.
okay, it depends. So we're talking TV show Night's King.
Cersei versus Catelyn.
Oh,
One
that's
on
a good
one?
one.
Oh,
Catelyn would whoop her ass. Catelyn would beat the brakes off Cersei. Cersei kind of hides behind her gold and the power of her father. Catelyn, I just see her in the streets just.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Catelyn, she like stopped that Valor steel dagger with her naked hands, and then that was stupid. I'm not defending that, but she, had the like fighting, like will to like capture Tyrion, and then she kills. She's killed. Like Cersei threw down Melara. Was that her name? Well, her friend down the well, but it's not the same thing.
Nah. And Cersei's not used to doing her own dirty work.
Right. Like, come on, pushing someone compared to Catelyn who. Well, no, that's a bitch move, too, because that was a little girl. She slit her throat. But I just see her, like, I can see Catelyn down there, like, going blow for blow, and Cersei trying to think of a plan where she doesn't even have to get her nails dirty. That's what I see. Cersei would be like, let's get rid of her a different way, because I ain't got time for that. Where Catelyn, I think she would just, I really think she would beat her ass. Because you got to think, this the chick that's responsible, because she didn't do it, but this the chick that's responsible for your kid getting pushed down the tower. There's no way in the world she wouldn't just go smack at her. No.
Catelyn definitely wins. What I would like to see would be Oberyn Martell versus Jaime naked mud wrestling. But that's just simply for ogling.
Yeah, that's just your hot dream.
Hey, but don't admit it. It would be fun to watch.
Does Jamie have both his hands? Because otherwise it would be a really bad disadvantage in naked mud wrestling.
No, young Jaime before the hand, just to make it even.
Because yeah, I was thinking like I assume with a gold hand, like you would, if you slip in the mud, like you couldn't even really get back up, like the gold would keep on slipping. So yeah.
No, both hands, just to make it.
So young Jamie versus young Oberyn. Naked mud wrestling.
How have we got into this? I've got into naked mud wrestling.
Alicia thinks Cersei would spank Catelyn?
Say that again?
Oh, I'm going back to the chat, and Alicia, she thinks Cersei would spank Catelyn.
Girl, please. How? Cersei's weak. The best she's done is push a little girl down a well. Catelyn, at least, I think she's just tougher than her. Like, I think Cersei, you would think she would just react and, like, attack her savagely, but I just see Catelyn, like, going back, bobbing, and it's just going. It's just, if it was roles reversed and Catelyn did something towards Cersei's child, then I might give her the slight edge, but I don't know. I have to put my money on Cat. Because come on, I know she's Southern, but she also lived up north, and, you know, they're tougher up north.
Yeah, come on, and to protect Bran, she grabbed that knife with her hand. Come on. No. Catelyn is willing to get herself dirty, and she's willing to go for it, while Cersei's too used to having lackeys doing her dirty work. She will gloat over them, she will watch them suffer, she will throw wine at their face, but she's not used to being the one who does. Catelyn would go for it. She would really go for it, and especially after Bran. Nope. Have we lost T?
No.
Okay, she'll be back.
She'll be back. Okay. Do you want to get us started then on the next question, or do we keep on doing some mud wrestling fantasy with the chat? Littlefinger versus Varys.
Oh, I don't think I would want to see that one.
No, not as steamy as Jaime versus Oberyn, but
no, and I also would not like to see Brown. Well, like, I really would not want to see that one.
Yeah, Varys versus Illyrio, or better, like Illyrio versus the Yellow Whale.
Butter.
Oh my God! Like, I'm killing all of your fantasy.
Oh God, the chat's gone crazy. Ooh, Tormund versus Littlefinger. Littlefinger would be crushed.
Yeah, of course. We're talking like naked. Okay, like here it's fair. It's naked mud wrestling. There's no poison. There's no hidden dagger. You know, no Littlefinger had no managed to have bought, you know, the guy pouring the mud to make sure it was favorable mud. It's like very fair. Yeah. Obviously, yeah. It would be crushed.
Illyrio versus Manderly. Mander would just sit on Illyrio and he would win.
Yeah, Lyanna could beat Littlefinger. Yeah, I agree, Alicia. Tormund versus Brienne.
I think Tormund would get too excited and distracted, and Brienne would be able to overpower him that way.
Well, I don't know. So Brienne, yeah, I mean, like, Tormund is not that tall. Do we know how tall Tormund is? I mean, we know how tall his member is, but I'm not sure.
Wait, what about Tormund?
Oh, it's Tormund versus Brienne naked mud match.
Y'all, she'll be naked and muddy with Jaime. I don't think she'll be with Tormund.
I think that Tormund would get distracted with all the naked fun, and Brienne would be able to.
Yeah. all she would need is like some chicken.
And Brienne's big. Like, you know, men versus women generally just because of the physical size, but Brienne is big. But we
Yeah.
don't know
I
how
know,
big
but the
Tormund
thing is,
is.
okay, Brienne is big, but like Tormund, I think would be okay fighting naked. Like Brienne would be like all awkward about being naked in front of people. Like she's very subconscious about the way she looks. That's 90% of all of her POV. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not pretty enough. So there she would, be naked mad wrestling. I think Tormund would be cool with it. Like, yeah, I can mad wrestle naked. I don't care. And I think that would make her like she would be so self-conscious that would make her lose, like a little bit of her cool.
True. Anyways, now that T's back, maybe we should get back on track.
Yeah, you want to get us started with the next serious question?
What happened?
Do you want to get us started with the next serious question?
Wait. Sorry, I don't have it open.
That's a very tough one. I mean, I can read it if you want.
So the third question is red or black. Is who's responsible for the Blackfire Rebellion?
Yeah. Who was right? Who would we support?
Yeah. So I'll just dive in, because this one I feel as though it's hard to say. I do really believe that the whole Blackfire Rebellion thing is something that leaked out from the Blackwoods and the Brackens fight. So I can't say who's really right or wrong, because that fight goes back to the Dawn Age. So this question was hard just because you don't know what happened back then for them to keep having this fight that went to the Blackfire Rebellion. Because they're still, like, the Blackwoods and the Brackens are still fighting till this day. So, and we still don't know exactly what happened. So that's hard to say. I honestly can't say who was right in that situation.
Okay, that's
back.
Say that again.
Who do you back? Who, if you have to choose red or black, who do you choose?
That's it. I can't choose neither one of them, because it's really what happened between the Blackwoods and the Brackens. When you have like the Blackwoods who went from one location to another, yet you have where the Brackens and the Blackwoods they've been going back and forth generation. They kept marrying into each other to try to fix it, and something would come up where they're still arguing about it. It's something that's really deep. But it happened way before the Targaryens. I think that's something that leaked, like their beef leaked into the Targaryens, which blew up and became the Blackfire Rebellion. So I can't say who I would back up, because I think when the Winds of Winter comes out, we'll get more information about those two houses, because whatever happened between those two houses is what I think happened, is the reason behind Blackfire. So I'm saying I have no idea.
No, but that's sorry, I'm still reading the chat about naked mad wrestling. No, that's actually a really fascinating take. I know your passion for the Blackwood and Bracken's feud, but yeah, obviously it is. I mean, like the Blackfire Rebellion is Peter Steele versus Bloodraven, and as much as I don't like Bloodraven, because I really don't like Bloodraven, I think Peter Steele was even worse. But I'm just I'm just saying, yeah, that rebellion was ridiculous. I mean, like, even if, okay, yeah, even if you're a legitimized bastard, how do you expect to, get on top of the first, true born son? That's just, again, it's. I'm sorry, I was shocked by the brilliance of what you were saying, T, because I was thinking that to me the only way their claim they should have put forward their claim in the first place would have been to bring about a great council. Like we are claiming, that the king is a bastard. We want, like, something like a voting process. and that rebellion. So that rebellion. I don't even know how you could really back them. Plus, I mean, it's tough because you have what 5 Blackfire rebellions. But I think, as we were discussing before, that those questions are supposed to be really tough because it's really murky. Like in the third Dunk and Egg novel, is that the second or third Blackfire rebellion? Can you help me out? Okay, now I'm feeling very alone.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. Say that last part again.
Yeah, like the third Dunk and Egg novel, like was that the second or third Blackfire rebellion? The second one? Well, I mean,
To be honest, I'm not quite sure. Chat, because I know everyone in there knows their stuff. So, which one was when did the third rebellion? Is that what you're asking?
well, I was saying that it's tough because it's not, we don't have one Blackfire rebellion. We have a bunch of them. Obviously, Mel is a monstrous, not for that guy either. But see what happens when I don't take note? I don't remember anybody's name. Let me like Tinker. You can. I'm gonna try to remember the name of who I mean, and if you wanna jump into the conversation.
Do you want me to say what I think?
Yeah.
Where I stand? Well, I took a simpler approach because there's like Blackfire Rebel. It's a huge thing. It's a very big thing, and as T said, there might be be more stuff, and so I decided to go just start with the very first. We start with Aegon the Unworthy that decides to legitimize all his bastard children, which is just, by the way, gonna cause problems. And the point is that war never brings anything good, unless it's for like a really good reason. It only brings death, it brings hate, it brings a lot of bad stuff. There was no reason to believe that his heir was illegitimate. He didn't say that he was illegitimate, so by all the laws of the kingdom, he was his heir, and he was his firstborn son. We've seen by history that he was not a bad king. Quite differently, he actually brought Dorne in through marriage, through peace, and brought a lot of good things to the kingdoms. His father, who was an asshole who created tons of problems and only brought a lot of war and a lot of bad counsel, did the stupidest thing by making all this. Like, what else was he proposing? Why would he suddenly decide that he was better? Why? Just because he's a good fighter and because he was also the king's son? Like, I think personally that it's just bloody selfish. Just deciding that, oh, I want to be king because I'm a good. That's not a good reason. Fighting. Being able to fight a war. There's a lot of people that can fight wars. There's a lot of good commanders. Sometimes it's much more difficult to get things done through diplomacy, through wise counsel, and bring peace and bring all these things, without wars. Because at the end, these high lords, are not the ones who suffer. It's the people that suffer. You have, a lot of rights, but you also have a responsibility to the people that are below you. And he's just like, I want to be king because my father obviously favored me and I have the sword. And just for selfishness and because, ambition, he brought tons of war to the kingdoms. That's not a good reason to be king. If his brother was a bad king, was, like a Joffrey or Ramsay or a Cersei, then yes, that is a good reason. But his half-brother, never showed any reason why he shouldn't be king. There was no reason why he should not be king. The kingdoms were not in any danger. Quite the contrary, he did a lot of good things for the kingdom. So just wanting to be king because the other guy might not be, and there are rumors that he might be illegitimate, it's not a good reason. That's being selfish, that's being an ass, and that's just not thinking of the people. You know, when you're king, you should be thinking of the people that are down below you, the people that depend on you. If you're not thinking of them, you're only thinking of you, then you're not deserving of the throne, even if he was the son of the king and the other one doesn't. He brought good things to Westeros through diplomacy, through trying to do good things for the kingdom. That's what he was thinking about. We're just thinking of getting his ass on the throne. And just because of that, it doesn't matter where the conflict came from. It doesn't matter what other reasons were behind it. I don't care. What I care about is that the king who inherited and who his father, who was the king, had not made him illegitimate by law. He was the heir, and he was supposed to rule. He was not crazy. He was not insane. He was not bad. He wanted good things for the kingdom. And the other guy, just because he fought very well and he warred on few tourneys, decided that he wanted to be king without having any plan about the good things that he was going to bring to the people. So, no. The Red, I'm completely on the side of the Targaryens. I don't care if he was illegitimate. What I care is that the other guy was just a selfish asshole. The lords were on his side because they still had hatred over the wars with Dorne. So there were petty, hateful reasons, and the people that suffered were the people on the bottom. So I'm with the Reds. That's my answer.
That's a very good answer. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like I was thinking, like I think the first rebellion. Yeah, I mean I kind of agree with Tinker. It was it really and obviously with T, like the hatred of two men. I mean some, then it was obviously the other rebellions were too late because their cause had already been seen as illegitimate, but um, you know, if the king had not been, if the rebellion had a reason once the king was ruling and was proving to be a bad king, bad for the realm, bad for the people, it would have been something completely different. But yeah, again, I think in that case, trying to seize the power by force instead of throwing, like, okay, if you have claims, let's start a great council. Not the right way.
Yeah, so like I said, the only reason I'm saying that I can't really figure out who's really in the right or wrong because I see both points. And also the points in the chat room as well. But to me, I just think that the whole Blackfire rebellion goes way back to these two houses fighting each other. But I do think that it's messed up that he was willing to. Well, to be honest, it's a lot of people who become kings in this series that are just selfish and they don't think of the people. They think of themselves. We see that all the time. So in that perspective, I agree with Tink, where it's like you're not thinking of anyone. You're really just thinking of yourselves. But we don't know everything we get like bits and pieces of everything that kind of happened. But to me, it's so much more into it that it's hard to say who's really in the right or wrong because it's so much information I think is missing when it comes to the Blackfire Rebellion. I see why I see why they would attack or think something differently because I do believe that they thought the king was a bastard. So I get that part, but at the same time, I don't think that they were thinking all just because that's the main reason they wanted to fight was because he was possibly a bastard. I think it's way more to it. That's the only reason why I can't really say who's in the right or wrong.
No, I agree with you. And yeah, it's not even really about blood legitimacy, and if you think he's a bastard, bring on a great council to decide that. Don't start I mean, if you start in war, it's you just want the realm to bleed. That does not really bode well on your ability to be a ruler.
Yeah, I'm reading some of the comments, and you
Yeah,
guys
me
are
too.
making sense when you're talking about the mother and then Blood Raven, his reaction shooting, and
Yeah.
all these other things. And you're making good points, but it's also, I think you have to consider all the aspects that went into this whole battle. It's not just one sided.
No, and
Like
Don
I said,
Willie,
it
like,
goes down to, yeah. So like I said, it goes down to, we don't have that much information really to say who's on whose side. But I'm curious. Just tell me in the comment section, are you team red or team black? I'm just curious to what all of you guys think. Who's in the right?
and Don, I would just want to answer to Don Willie. Like, I agree. I started by saying like that I hate Blood Raven, and yes, he was. I mean, he's the like Machiavellian type of ruler, where it's really the end justifies the means. He was, I don't know how the realm stayed that quiet when he was the hand for so many years. Okay, Blackfire. Okay, we do have a lot of Team Blackfire. That's
That makes total sense right now. But yeah. Who knows? Who knows? So we done with this question so far. I'm undecided. Tank, you were with the Targs.
and I'm
I'm
also with. I mean, in the first Blackfire Rebellion, I'm also with the Targs. Yeah, I'm Team
So
Red.
you're a Targ. So the Targs are gonna win it. I'm indecisive. I'm not picking because I'm just too stubborn in my thought that it goes way beyond Blackfire, the first rebellion. So Blackfires are winning. They won this
Yeah.
battle.
Okay, and what I propose is that because that's obviously that is a much too big questions to be like only like dealt as one part. In the upcoming month, let's try to set up a roundtable discussion with some Team Blackfire members so we can, have a better conversation and we can exchange arguments. Uh, and yeah, to because I think that would be interesting. So on the calendar, a big roundtable just about the Blackfire Rebellion. The next question is also something that could probably, require a whole roundtable. Uh, as I cannot talk to you and look at the comments. That's terrible. So the next questions: blacks or greens? To clarify, that's another question by Jerry. To clarify, the Dance of the Dragons, who was in the right? Who do you support? And to briefly, just as we've said before, briefly summarize my question, no one was in the right, Jerry. No one was in the right. Uh, that was just a total massacre. They ruined the kingdom. They destroyed their dragon. They weakened their future rule for really not that much. Who would I support? Briefly, I would be, and I know like I can feel like Tinker's gonna jump as I'm gonna say that, but I would support the Greens. But yeah, okay, I can see your face. But again, no one was right. No one was right. I think yeah, who was right was that Allison or Otto Hightower who suggested that both sides would be wed, that Rhaenyra would wed Ralph's brother. That would have been the right smart plan of action to avoid. Okay, okay, go ahead, ladies. I can just see you. Go ahead.
Mine's is short and sweet. I blame the Greens for it. First of all, they did the same thing that they did to Asha. You took something that the king basically said, "This is what I want. Who I want to be my heir, and you just said no because it has to be a person with a penis. No, she was trained as a young age to become queen, and Hightower decided no, she doesn't need to be queen. He does, because if memory, and I might be off on this, but whatever, I forget his name. The Targaryen that became king. He didn't even think, her brother basically,
Yeah,
he didn't even think that he was supposed to be king. So it was news to him, and then all of a sudden, because your grandfather and your mama want to scheme to get you on the throne, then all of a sudden you cool with it. No, that was messed up what they did. They took the throne from her. If everything was set up in place, and because she was a woman, you just deemed her and said she was unfit. It's the same thing with Asha. Even Dampere, when he's in the dungeon, says, you know what, Asha would have been a great leader. Too bad she's a chick. So, in my opinion, is that the Greens were definitely wrong on this.
I mean, no. Remember, why is Rhaenyra's father king? And why is she the heir? Only because in 101 there has been a great council deciding that the entirety of the lords of the realm wanted male primogeniture, unlike Dorne, and that was the rule. Then again, not entirely on that. I have a lot of blame for Rhaenyra on what she does for the very short time where she rules. But I'm not blaming her. I'm entirely blaming Viserys for that. But how could you hope to rule lords that won't support your rule? That is ridiculous.
Tank, what do you think?
I am completely on the side of the blacks. Well, to be fair, I agree with Sweet, the fact that both of them are very guilty, and both of them deserve a big kick in the ass. Because there are ways of doing things, and this was definitely not the way. The one that I agree with more was the Grand Master at the time. What was his name? What was I didn't write it down. Damn it! And he was the one who was, the smartest one. And he was like, "This is gonna bring war." He
Didn't I kill him?
Who is it? Oh, God, why didn't I write it? Yes, Grandmaster Orwyle? Or Will? I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce it. Predicted a war. And he said that she would never give up her birthright, and that she had dragons, and that he was not, and he was the smartest one. He was the smartest one. He predicted the war, and both, to be fair, both sides had guilt. But I don't like the way that the Greens did things. Because for one, maybe it's because I'm the daughter of a lawyer, but I believe that wills have to be followed. The king had a will, and he wrote that Rhaenyra was his heir. And I hate it when people find wills, they find things that they don't like in it, and decide that they're not going to follow I hate that. I don't know, maybe it's because my mother's a lawyer and I've heard a lot of law things and justice, but no, she wrote that Rhaenyra was the heir. And the wills have to be followed. There are other ways. As Sweet says, they could have married Aegon, the one that they crowned. He had son, a daughter. Rhaenyra had children. They could have married them, so Rhaenyra ruled, and then their children would rule, and then both sides would be united. Or marry Rhaenyra to Aegon too, like Sweet says. There are ways of doing things that do not end up in war with dragons on both sides. But then knowing that because they knew that she was never going to give up that claim, because she was the heir. She'd been raised as that. She was in Dragonstone. She had dragons. And then when he dies, and only that, as the wife, to completely disregard your husband's will, it would be the same way if the wife died, she left a will and the husband completely disregarded it. It's just, a lack of loyalty, it's treason. It's treason towards someone that you've sworn to marry and to be part. A marriage is supposed to be like, okay, to be fair, this is the world and this is the situation and this world is different. But you've made an oath to be married to that person, and just because you don't like the will, the way that they did it, crowning them that way, knowing that it would bring war. They deliberately knew that what they were doing was going to bring war. And no, it was no. By law, the will stated that she was the heir. She was raised as the heir. She had dragon sons, and they were going to bring war. She could have done something about it years ago, because the fight between the two of them started a long time ago, before she even had children. She didn't like the fact that her husband had a daughter that he named Heir, and that she wasn't as powerful. So when she had her kids, she could have told her husband, once the first daughter married, and her son was born, to ask him to marry the daughter, so that it would be, more peaceful, so there would never be any doubt. So the two, the daughter that he'd considered her heir, and the first son that most people would have considered the heir, married them. It was a very simple thing, but she didn't do that. She didn't want to do that. She wanted her kids to be the king and queen, and he went behind her back, did it in a very dirty way, and started a war. And no, so I just no. Both sides were in the bad, because she also didn't have to go all homicidal and start that war that weakened. How many people died? Like practically all the Targaryens at that point died. Like so many few. And not only that, in the end, it was Rhaenyra's son who ended up being king. Like all of that thing that the High Tower started to have practically all of the family dead. All of her heirs dead, and eventually they ended up without dragons, and only Rhaenyra's son ruling and hating dragons, and then what a freaking disaster. Just because they didn't decide to do things the bloody peaceful way and decided to start wars. Starting wars for nothing, just for ambition, always ends in disaster, as we've seen in these books. So I'm with the Blacks. But both sides suck.
Yeah, both sides suck. I agree on that. I'm just saying that Great Council is the first attempt at democracy. Yes, okay, the king, I've seen that. Like, yeah, he's the king and do whatever the fuck he wants. Except that he's king only because there was a decision that has been made. And so, like, Viserys acted as a tyrant to say, okay, we establish rule through a democratic process, and I'm just gonna disregard them. I mean, I was really happy of those rules, but now I'm just gonna disregard them. And that's just ridiculous. And Rhaenyra, okay, even with no greens, seriously, her reign would never have worked out. And at some point, the Dreens still tried to negotiate something like a treaty with her, an alliance, and she refused. She had bastard children. All the realm knew. She was a woman. She had bastard children. That would never have been like the Greens were pretty much the only way to try to salvage the Targaryen dynasty. I mean, otherwise, just Rhaenyra ruling on her own. Sooner or later, there would have been an uprising, and someone,
She was married already to her uncle, and a lot of people thought that maybe he was the one who should have really ruled.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, the Greens, they went about everything the wrong way, and they took the crown from her. So if you have to think about all the lives that were lost because of this, I have to blame who started, which is the Greens. Like, if your king tells you that this is what he wants done, then you're supposed to obey. Like, they all did their oaths to obey this king. And yet, the second she wants to see her kids now on the throne, now we have to change it, and now we need to lock the doors and figure out how we going to get her son on the crown. Like, she was wrong for that, and she didn't care about the people's lives, and all of these unfortunate events came from her actions, her and her father's.
Not only that, when the king named her heir, he made the lords swear oaths to her that they would follow her. All of that once the high towers, the mother and the father, the grandfather, he was the hand of the king at the time. He's the one who really put it in the small council to change that. You know, all of those oaths, what, they suddenly went out the window? Suddenly they didn't matter? It's just, not only that, it's just both of the people that pushed that were the high towers, because not even the Aegon who they were crowning, he didn't even think it was right to take the crown from his sister. So it was two high towers that had really no blood relation to the Targaryen and to the throne. The only way that they'd gotten into the throne was through marriage. Because the Otto Hightower got to be hand of the king because his daughter was married to the king. So technically they got into that position of power because they married into the Targaryens, and then they were the ones who meddled in Targaryen affairs and started this bloody civil war between them. When it would have just been very easy, the moment that she had Aegon, to ask the king to marry them together, so then there wouldn't be any issues of legitimacy of who would rule, because I don't know. They both went about it the wrong way. But in the end, I have to side to the ones who didn't actually start the war. Rhaenyra thought that she'd been betrayed, and she was betrayed. She was betrayed. She was in Dragonstone. She was supposed to be the heir, and they didn't even ask her for counsel. They didn't even. No. They just simply did it. They did it sneakily. They went behind her back. Tried to do it. They did it like in a dirty way. The way that they went about it, it even looks like, how you do certain things is like whether you believe in it or you believe that you're doing the wrong thing and that you're guilty. Some people that they act certain way, like they're acting guilty. The way that they went about it is like they had like guilty written in their forehead because they knew that they were not going about it the right way. So even their actions scream that. But, Targaryens are bloody crazy, and when that civil war started, they should have gone about, there was at some point that they should have both sides stopped. And that's how it ended, in bloody disaster. Which, in the way, I think the rest of Westeros actually benefited, because with the Mad King, if they'd had dragons, the rebellion would have never been successful. And the Mad King, God knows how many people he would have. Do you imagine the Mad King with a dragon? Do you imagine what would have happened if that mad crazy bastard had a dragon? Oh boy. The death of dragon would have been better for the future of Westeros.
If he had a dragon, basically, there would be no Westeros. I feel like every major house would have been burned down to the ground because they looked at him the wrong way. That's a scary thought for him to have just one, let alone if he had a bunch of them. No.
At the same time, would it have been, would he have gotten that crazy if he had dragons? Like, they seem to have been like, see, Maegor the Cruel.
Or maybe more.
I don't know, Maegor the Cruel was, pretty bad. He did a lot of bad things. He had dragons, but he, he hasn't torn down the realm more than others. Relatively, yeah, he was horrible. He was horrible, but
he was not. But was he batshit crazy like the Mad King was?
We don't have first-hand accounts, but yeah, he was pretty batshit crazy. But a lot of people say that sorry, I'm starting to have a headache. I'm sorry, guys. When he was captured and held at Duskendale, that's when his madness really accelerated. That would never happen if he had a dragon. the Defiance, you would have seen the dragon burn down. No more Defiance. Like he was very paranoid. If he had dragons, he would have been more sure of his power and thus less paranoid. Like those people can't touch me. I have dragons.
It's curious. What to speculate what would have happened if they would have never lost their dragons. Like what would have happened with the Blackfire rebellions?
Yeah.
The Blackfires had dragons, or would they just only had a few, or would Aegon the Unworthy giving them like dragon eggs? That's actually interesting to know. What would have happened if the Dance of Dragons had never happened, or if the dragons had survived?
If the dragons would have survived, they probably would have been used in the Blackfire Rebellion. Because I think with this house with so many of them, it was bound to happen, like a fight to break out. I think it would have been worse, like the impact of dragons being used if they were still around during the Blackfire Rebellion. I think you would most likely probably even have Blackfires actually reigning as kings and not Targaryens, probably, if they had dragons.
I don't think so. Do you imagine Bloodraven and a dragon?
That's a scary thought. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of different. Like if it didn't happen with the Dance of the Dragons, I think we still would have had like the Dance of the Dragons. But if it was
another point in time,
yeah, that's a crazy thought though. If they had the dragons during that time,
and if Bloodraven, he can work into the tree and he can work into the ravens. And we know that Bran developed his working because of summer. That's how the stars developed. It activated, or that's how I'm thinking of it. They're working, with their direwolves. We've seen that Sansa doesn't have it anymore because the direwolves was killed. If Bloodraven had had a dragon, would that have activated his working? And would he be able to work into dragons? Imagine the Blackfire Rebellions with Bloodraven being able to work into dragons?
Yeah,
they're red one.
Yeah, they would lose if he was able to do that.
Oh, now it's gotten into my head.
I know, can't get it out, can you?
That would be interesting. I would love to read that Blackfire Rebellion with Bloodraven. Oh, that'd be fun. Not for the Blackfires though, or for anyone really, because Bloodraven doesn't seem to have a lot of scruples.
No.
Or any at all. Oh, that's just dangerous. But anyways, so we've got Sweet that thinks both sides should, go to hell. I think both sides should go to hell, but I'm still with the Blacks, and Sweet the Blacks win.
Yeah, they do. They do win, but they all can go. They're all dead actually, so. Kanye shrug.
The Blacks survived. 2 of them, at least the 2 youngest.
Yeah. Either way, it was just you know what? That whole Blackfire Rebellion thing, it really looks like it's outsiders kind of like manipulating the situations to knock out a powerful threat. So it worked. It definitely worked.
I like Nettles though also. And
yeah.
Black, so that kind of helps me a bit. Come on, you've got to admit, Sweets, Nettles was cool.
Oh no, Nettle was cool. Again, my first thing is they were both really, really, really crazy and really bad. I mean, mostly it's it's retroactive, so it's not really fair, and it really doesn't answer the question. But a lot of the things Rhaenyra did once, like during the Dance of the Dragon, are like, I don't know, like, ugh.
Well, both sides did very questionable things.
No,
both sides did very, very questionable things.
There's
point in when a war starts so dirty and so bad that eventually both sides just kind of lose sight of what they're doing. And one side do something very nasty, so the other one responds and it just gets completely out of control. Which is why you should always avoid war and try to do things a different way before it gets so freaking nuts. And Targaryens are kind of crazy. So with Targaryens on both sides and dragons, it was always going to get nasty and dirty and just plain horrible, because he ended up feeding Rhaenyra to the dragon. That's just, with her son in front of it, like, dude.
Yeah.
They both sides got kind of completely way overboard.
I know, but it's God. Of course, now I just forgot the name of the brigands. It's rat and cheese. No, it cannot be rat and cheese.
Yes, no, cheese. Yeah, oh yes, cheese and.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And see, no notes, no memory, and a headache, and that's me on video. But seriously, asking,
Blood and cheese.
blood and cheese. Asking the
Technically,
mother to decide which of her babies is gonna be killed in. Oh my God! I mean, like,
but
and
that
we,
was Rhaenyra. That was Prince
yeah,
Dayne, her husband.
yes.
He was more of a bastard than Rhaenyra. He was the one that really takes the blame from a lot of the nasty stuff.
Oh no, I agree, but I'm saying, like, the blacks. Yeah, that was very nasty.
And that
But yeah.
had a consequence because her son was killed by the Greens. They were the ones who actually killed the first son. So, no offense, but if my baby got killed, I would go for blood for them as well.
Yeah, but it's not just going for blood. Again, like, that's, it's not just going for blood. Yeah,
The way they went
context,
about it.
exactly. It would have been like eye for an eye, revenge. It wouldn't have been like top horrible, but yeah, that thing was just.
Yeah, the problem about war is that you always have to top. You always top. You do something nasty, the other ones do something nastier, then the other ones do something nastier, which is why I don't like the Greens, because they started the bloody war in the first place, and it's never good to start a war. Because this is how it ends. Both sides all practically dead. So many people died in this war. Like, almost all of the Targaryens were extinguished. Practically all of them. And all of the dragons were dead. All of the dragons were dead. So, and the king was Aegon. Which one was the one? It's just, why do they have to name them the same exact things? Then they just put a 2, a 4, a 5, or 6, and aim, and it's just so hard to keep track of the bloody names. Or maybe it's just me.
Oh, I can't remember any name. I'm sorry. You know that already.
See, it was Aegon II died, and then his nephew Aegon the Younger. They even have the same bloody name. How are you supposed to keep track if they even have the same bloody name? Ridiculous. That is one of my big issues with George writing in the books. When you have such huge books that are so complex with with such long history, come up with more names. It's not that difficult. Come up with more names. Don't repeat 4 or 5 100,000 times and drive people bloody crazy. I'm not good with names as it is, but if you keep even using the same exact ones, I go bloody crazy.
Guys, you're fighting in the chat. Don't fight in the chat, please. Yeah, that's such a long question. Like, that would be an entire episode. Like, we could actually try to set, like, I don't know, it would have to be like a reread of both books plus, I mean, there's so much. I mean, what's crazy is that there's so much on the Dance of the Dragon, yet at the same time, in each of those books, it's left so ambiguous for us not to know. Obviously, because we're gonna have a Dance of the Dragon 2.0 arriving pretty soon. it will have to be hard for us to choose whether we want to back up Aegon again, another Aegon, or Dany. But if it was simple, it wouldn't be interesting, or George's writing. But it's frustrating because, you're rereading those pages and you're like, but yeah, they're both just horrible.
Yes, yes, because in the end they both ended up, war just makes you do such nasty things that it ends up changing you a lot. So even if you started, at the beginning Aegon 2 when he got, I think it was Aegon 2, the one that ended up crowned at the very beginning, he ended up, not wanting the crown at the beginning, thinking it was wrong. And look how he ended up, crippled and feeding his half-sister to a dragon while his son watched and keeping him in jail. He was just a kid who'd barely even been in the bloody war except just to escape in a dragon and was half traumatized and barely even spoke. But he kept him in the cells back, like, he ended up being someone like bitter, angry, crippled, just completely different. Nothing good came out of that bloody war. Nothing good.
Nothing.
The only thing that ended up was with a king that was completely traumatized.
Yeah, yeah, that was really not what the realm needed at that point.
The broken king. And who knows, maybe that's what started, everything that eventually ended up descending into Mad Ares.
Mm.
The Black, everything.
We had Mad Targaryens before, but yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like, at least that, planted the seed for Robert's rebellion somehow. Like, because if the Targaryen had been as powerful as they had been before, no rebellion could really have succeeded.
Yes.
T, do you have anything to add on that subject?
No, you guys covered it. I just want everyone to get along in the chat room. If you have difference of opinion, it is cool. Just keep it moving. If you can't agree on something, agree to disagree and move on. I got a migraine, y'all, so
See, that's what
let's
we're
just,
doing. We're
yeah, no,
agreeing to disagree
yeah,
every
I'm just
month.
saying in the chat room, you guys, like, if it gets to the point where y'all not agreeing on something, agree to disagree and then keep it moving, because there's so many awesome things in this book that if it's one little thing y'all don't agree on, keep it moving. It's no point in arguing with each other about it.
Yeah. And even more, if you think you have a really, really cool idea that everybody disagrees with, make it a video. Like, do it. Take that opportunity to, like, make something cool, something, like something with your idea. I'm sorry, I've not read the chat. Maybe we're not discussing a theory at all. I just saw, yeah, people disagreeing a little bit, but I missed the gist of it. But anyway, we don't want to go over too long because, I'm sure you're waiting, and we also are waiting for Tony's Q&A that should start pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm sure you all know, you don't need me to tell you to go and check Mr. Tony Teflon's Q&A on his channel that should start in less than 20 minutes. So just time for you to grab a quick bite to eat and then join his Q&A. So like I said, next month, we're gonna continue to talk about the Targaryen, but this time it's gonna be a more general topic of dragons. And last thing before I let those beautiful ladies sign out, I actually really, really liked the, Iron Throne's crazy Westeros After Dark question, and it would be fun to have an episode just with fun questions where we would not need to, like, make our brain bleed because they're so, like difficult. Like, how can you choose, between the black and the greens? So
Yeah, send me crazy questions. Crazy fun
yeah,
questions.
send us some crazy fun questions. We'd love to make, like, a special episode just with those. So that's all for me. Ladies, if you want to say goodbye.
I'll start. I'll check out first. First, I want to say to everyone that has been watching my last two videos, I haven't been answering or commenting. It's been a couple of crazy weeks for me. Not in more like a confusing, uncertain way of where I'm going. I don't know if I'm moving back home or I'm moving someplace else. I haven't done a few videos, and I just haven't answered back. I know it's because I'm not there or I'm not grateful. I just haven't. I just have like in my YouTube, like in my email, like 50 or 60 of all the comments that have been sent, and I will try to respond to a great deal, many of things soon. But it's just I haven't been able to be present because things have been very uncertain and just kind of confusing, and I've just even been lucky to be able to be in this video. So if I normally answer your comments and I haven't in the last two videos or so, I'm sorry. I'll try to see if I can get to them at some point, but I just wanted to say because I'm very grateful for everyone who watches my videos and who takes the time to comment, and I normally try to comment back and to answer, but it's just it's been kind of crazy. So I just wanted to say that, and I don't know. I'll try to do a video soon in the next couple of weeks, but I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to do that. But hopefully things will get more clear for me in the next few days. So thank you very much for watching. It's been great doing a Clash of Queens again, and thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.
And it's T. Thanks for having me again. It's always a blast clashing out with the queens. Check all of our channels out. Always some good things, and you know, different content when it comes to Sweet's channel, but also fun to watch. So check us all out. You'll see us again clashing it out, and thanks for coming out. Hit the like button when you're done. Leave your comments. Give us more questions because the more questions you send us, the better chances you'll get your question answered. Besides, you guys come up with the best questions. So once this video uploads, send us your Clash of Queens questions so we can keep this going. I apologize, my head is banging at this moment. So I'm glad we're kind of ending this, but great questions, great versus battles, and thanks again for just joining us.
Yeah, nothing much to add. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a difficult week too here. I mean, I don't want to, like you probably heard the news in France, and yeah. But we're still here. Thank you so much for coming and watching us, and sorry for me being a little down and not very, my brain not thinking very clearly. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your great questions, and I will see you all next Saturday for the Meet the Watch Q&A. And until then, bye bye.